Imagine walking in a quiet forest in the middle of the night. The stars are shining, and peace is all abundant. You think to yourself that this place is both beautiful and eerie at the same time. All of a sudden, you're drawn towards something that is calling your name. You can't describe it, but you feel that you should go deeper into the woods. As you go deeper into the woods, you see a mysterious cloaked figure in the clearing that is calling your name. Before you can rationalize what is happening, you all suddenly wake up from your bedroom. You think it was just a dream, but you realize that you don't remember returning home and going into your bedroom. All you can remember is being in the woods, meeting a mysterious cloaked figure that knew your name. This is one of the many cases of an odd event that happened in San Antonio between the 1950s to the 1960s. In this Season 1 final episode, I will explore a mysterious event that many witnesses claim truly happened within Olmos Basin Woods. In Olmos Basin Woods lay a mysterious secret school that was supposedly run by extraterrestrials. I will also explore the fascinating history of the UFO phenomenon that is still happening in the city of San Antonio, Texas to this very day. I am your host, Streetlight Historian, and this is the Hidden Histories of San Antonio, Texas. To understand this hidden and forgotten historical event, one must look at the fascinating history of scientific research on extraterrestrial life that took place in San Antonio, Texas from 1947 to 2021. Unsurprisingly, when the School of Aviation Medicine was stationed in San Antonio, Texas from the 1920s to 2011, it became the first military institution to research the possible existence of extraterrestrial life. Under the leadership of Dr. Hubertus Struckold from 1947 to his retirement in 1968, Dr. Struckold would do a variety of scientific research into seeing if life could possibly survive beyond Earth. Many historians have claimed that Dr. Hubertus Struckold coined the term astrobiology when describing his research to the public in 1947. In recently declassified government documents, it was revealed that Dr. Hubertus Struckold believed that Mars once held an advanced extraterrestrial civilization when examining the mysterious canals found on Mars. Dr. Struckold was open to the idea that there could be advanced extraterrestrial civilizations in our Milky Way galaxy. Beyond Brooks School of Aerospace Medicine, from the 1970s to the 2020s, universities such as UTSA, Incarnate Word, Our Lady of the Lake, and Texas A&M at San Antonio, Texas, have played a major role in scientific research of extraterrestrial life. From engineering to biological research, these universities have helped our planet have a better understanding of how life could survive beyond Earth. But behind the scenes of this fascinating research, there does in fact lay rumors of secret research going on within the city of San Antonio, Texas. One of the most shocking rumors I have ever found was on the School of Aerospace Medicine's Astrobiology Research Department, where supposedly it was rumored that the School of Aerospace Medicine archives had a secret file on alien autopsy research done at Brooks Air Force Base back in the 1960s. The rumor begins with President John F. Kennedy visiting Brooks Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas on November 21, 1963. The official purpose of this visit was to dedicate several new facilities which would be dedicated to exploring the potential health hazards faced by astronauts in outer space. In this rumor, some people believe that the actual reason for JFK's visit was that he wanted to see an alien body that was supposedly stored at the School of Aerospace Medicine at Brooks Air Force Base. The main piece of evidence for this fascinating rumor is the fact that JFK is known to have had a closed-door meeting with Major General Theodore C. Bedwell, Jr., who was the Deputy Surgeon and Chief at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base from 1946 to 1947. People have claimed that the alien corpse recovered from the Roswell crash was taken to Wright-Patterson for analysis, and seen as Bedwell was stationed at Brooks Air Force Base in a major medical capacity, he would have probably seen one of these ET bodies at the School of Aerospace Medicine, since the school was researching astrobiology. Some people believe that the evidence to support an alien autopsy being done at Brooks Air Force Base is the oral account from Major General Sam Weaver's grandson, Bruce Weaver, who claims that the School of Aerospace Medicine did an autopsy of alien Bigfoot back in 1962. According to Bruce's account, things started getting seriously strange when an unnamed member who worked at Brooks Air Force Base quietly told Major General Sam in secret about an odd file he had seen among the hundreds of nebulous classified documents kept stashed at Brooks archives. Most of these files discussed how NASA and the military were working to keep astronauts safe and healthy, but this specific file contained information about astrobiology autopsy. This bizarre document was quite huge. It contained lurid, full-color photographs of the autopsy of what appeared to be a hairy humanoid creature. This monster had been found one morning in 1962 by members of a security team within the thicket forest that surrounded NASA's historic John H. Glenn Research Center. This Ohio Research Center was where the liquid hydrogen rocket engines used in the Apollo missions were developed. The story of how the corpse of a Sasquatch came to rest in the forest around this famous site is a strange one, to say the least. On the night before the discovery was made, the hapless security staff had observed fast-moving orbs of blue light flitting in and out of the trees and circling the research base at alarming low altitude. Despite not seemingly being hostile, these alarming apparitions were obviously controlled by some kind of intelligent force, and the guards quickly panicked. According to Major General Sam Weaver's version of events, which he told to his grandson, some sort of alteration took place in which the guards ended up discharging the bullets at these light orbs. The next morning, the guards went out into the forest to scour the ground for any evidence of their bizarre experience, when they found more than they bargained for. The body of a colossal, hairy humanoid creature lay there on the ground before them. Although Bruce Weaver felt the need to specify that the files never referred to the creature as Bigfoot, due to the lack of usage of that term in popular culture at that time, that would probably be the best term to describe the entity. His grandfather made it very clear to him that whatever it was definitely wasn't a gorilla despite its resemblance to one, and judging by description of the body that will come later, it seems unlikely that it was an unknown primate either. They sent the body to Brooks Air Force Base for an autopsy since the school focused on astrobiology. According to Major General Sam's colleague, the file detailed that the monster was truly gigantic in size. It was 9 feet tall and weighed over 500 pounds. It had 32 teeth and vocal cords that were noted as being similar to those of humans. This could have been a mundane unknown species of ape, but things then took an even stranger turn when the doctors involved in performing this astonishing autopsy found that a strange metallic device had seemingly been previously surgically implanted in the lower section of the creature's left arm. The scientists theorized that this might have been some kind of tracking device, but nothing concrete was ever discovered about the alarming mechanism. After the autopsy, the body was then sent to Wright-Patterson, where it would safely be stored for future research. After hearing this account, Major General Sam decided to look for the documents of this fascinating claim. Sadly, he learned that the file on the ape creature was immediately removed from Brooks' archives and was sent to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base after it was discovered that the file was not supposed to be in Brooks' archives. Seeing that he would not be able to have proof of this account, Major General Sam decided to keep the story quiet until decades later when he decided that his children had the right to know about what he had learned while serving at Brooks Air Force Base. Although this was an oral account, the connections with the school's astrobiology research to Brooks Air Force Base, having the largest ape research laboratory in the world, to Major General Theodore C. Bedwell Jr., having connections with both the 1947 Roswell incident and overseeing the medical department of Wright-Patterson, was stationed at Brooks Air Force Base during the 1960s, to finally Major General Sam Weaver admitting that there was an alien autopsy taking place at Brooks Air Force Base. It's very possible that such events could have taken place. It's also very possible that this case may have played a role in the rise of Bigfoot encounters in San Antonio, Texas from the late 1960s to the late 1970s. Now that we have gone into the meat of these interesting topics, let's dive into the mysterious school that was run by extraterrestrials during the 1950s. From the 1950s to the present, San Antonio has documented many claims of supposed UFOs flying in the Texas sky. From flying saucers to triangles, San Antonio has become a hotbed for UFO encounters. While some of these cases can be explained as natural phenomenon or misidentification, there is one particular case that many San Antonians are unaware of. In the 1950s, just 5 miles north of downtown San Antonio lay a small town known as Alamo Heights. Alamo Heights was a small town that officially was incorporated into the city of San Antonio, Texas by the 1940s. Within Alamo Heights, famous institutions such as Incarnate Word University and the Alamo Heights Independent School were the hallmark of the town. Beyond its institutions and growing suburbs lay a mysterious forest known as Olmos Basin. Next to this forest was a cement factory that soon became abandoned after the company went out of business. The community of Alamo Heights in the 1950s was a middle-class area where it would eventually grow until the 2000s. Reports of mysterious things happening at the Olmos Basin started to begin in the 1950s. People who lived in that area during the 1950s began reporting to see weird lights that flew around the woods. They would also hear weird noises coming from the woods. It became so prevalent that the parents told their children to stay away from those woods during the night. It wouldn't be known until famous American writer Whitley Strieber published his experience of that wooded area in his 1997 book, The Secret School: Preparation for Contact. In his book, Mr. Strieber reveals that as a kid in the summer of 1954, he had a paranormal experience in the woods of Olmos Basin. While returning home at night, he felt something calling him into the woods. He followed where he would encounter the mysterious cloaked figure. From his description, the cloaked figure looked like a tall, female gray alien. This mysterious figure told him to follow her to her school. Mr. Strieber claimed that he was in some sort of trance and agreed to follow her. Through a clearing, Mr. Strieber claimed he saw a building with a group of children waiting for him. From here, Mr. Strieber claimed that the mysterious cloaked figure was not alone and other gray aliens appeared out from the building. This group of visitors, as Mr. Strieber would call them, told the children that they had been enrolled into their school. They would teach them many things that many children of this world have not learned. And so, from every night, Mr. Strieber and the children would leave their home every night and participate in many of the school's lessons, from examining alien technology to learning some interesting puzzles. By the time that summer was going to end, the visitors revealed to the kids that they had graduated from their school. As the kids were taken back to their homes, Mr. Strieber claims that the cloaked woman erased his memories and would not remember those events until 40 years later. As crazy as this story might sound, it turns out there have been other witnesses that validate Mr. Strieber's story. The witness I interviewed wanted his identity to remain anonymous, so I changed his name to Henry and will read his account from the interview I did with him. For introductions, I met Henry when I was doing some historical research on the history of Lackland Air Force Base. Henry served in the United States Air Force from the 1960s to the 1990s. While I was talking with him about the history of astrobiology at Brooks Air Force Base, I was given the opportunity to hear his account of what had happened to him back in the summer of the 1950s. From Henry's account, while exploring the Olmos Basin woods, he encountered a mysterious cloaked figure that was not human. From his descriptions, it was a tall, female gray alien that told him that she was looking for him. All of a sudden, Henry was soon in a trance-like state and began to follow the mysterious figure. This mysterious figure took him to the strange building that seemed to have been placed there recently. He also saw many kids outside the building playing. The mysterious figure told him to go play with the kids and he followed her orders. As soon as the kids were finished playing, the mysterious figure told the children that they had been chosen to become her students for this summer. She told them that they would learn many things that not many kids of this world have learned yet. She also told the children that they would need to keep this a secret from their parents because the school that they were going to was a secret school. Throughout the summer, Henry would quietly leave his house at night to go to the secret school where he learned about physics, astronomy, and aerospace engineering. He even remembered the times when the teacher brought over a flying saucer to land at the school for one of their lessons. He also remembers that there were gray alien children enrolled in the secret school as well. Henry claims that he felt no fear going to the secret school and playing with the gray alien children. At the end of that summer, many of the students had graduated and were taken back to their houses, but for Henry, it was a different story. He claimed that the teacher of the school wanted him to continue with their education, so every summer during the 1950s, he would be enrolled into their secret school until he began high school. His last year at the secret school was in 1960. He remembers having to say goodbye to his alien friends that he knew he would never see again. As for the great alien teacher, she told him that they would not erase his memories, for she believed that he would keep his experience a secret, to which he agreed to. As he left the school and headed home, he said one final goodbye to the teacher when he reached the end of the forest. It was a heartbreaking moment in my life that I would never get to see these people again, Henry claims. Before the teacher left, she gave him a hug goodbye and told him that he was an incredible student and she would never forget him. As he left the woods, he turned around to see her walk slowly back into the woods, never to be seen again. As Henry went through high school, he still thought about the secret school. When he graduated high school and was going to the United States Air Force boot camp, he wanted to see the secret school one last time. As he reached his destination, he soon saw that the building was gone. The only remnants of that school was the rock circle he had made when he was enrolled. They truly did leave that area clean. The only evidence was the rock circle I had made with the kids. But sadly, that got destroyed in one of the floods back in the 1970s. The only thing left to remember that school are the memories and friendships I made there. It was truly indeed a secret school that changed me forever, quoted Henry. I asked Henry what the extraterrestrials' goals of teaching them this information were. He responded with, I believe that they wanted to create a human generation that had more knowledge than the previous generation when it came to science and technology. As for their end goal, he still doesn't know, but he will never forget them and the incredible knowledge he has learned from them. Because of this knowledge, Henry was able to excel in high school and his job in the United States Air Force. I asked him why he decided to reveal this fascinating story to me, to which he responded, I wanted my children and grandchildren to know that they are not alone in the universe, and since you're a historian, I thought having an oral historical account might help in researching this mysterious event that took place in San Antonio, Texas during the 1950s, quoted Henry. After hearing this, he informed me that he would be giving a lecture to an organization that was researching the existence of extraterrestrial life and understanding the UFO phenomenon. I asked him what that organization name was, and he told me that the organization name was the Mutual UFO Network, also known as Mufon. I was fortunate enough to be able to hear Mr. Henry's lecture, and had the opportunity to meet with the director of Texas chapter of Mufon. With his permission, I was able to have an opportunity to interview him and ask him what are Mufon's goals in today's scientific research on extraterrestrial life.
First of all, I want to thank you for coming out here and spending some time with me, and hopefully I can give you something you can use. But I'm Ken Jordan. I am currently the Mufon State Director, and we are in San Antonio, if you didn't know that. And I was born and raised here in San Antonio, went to school here, went to college here. I joined the military here, and ultimately had my last assignment here and retired from the military here. But besides being a military officer, my first half of my military career, I was in the National Guard. So I've also been a businessman, a general contractor. I've been a fire chief. I've been a lot of things. But now that I'm retired, I'm finding that researching and studying this UFO phenomenon has really become really extremely interesting for me. So that's a great question. Well, first of all, Mufon, if you don't know what Mufon is, it's an acronym that stands for the Mutual UFO Network. And Mufon was originally founded back in 1969 as the Midwest UFO Network for 4 states in the Midwest. By 1972, it had grown so big, it just exploded across the country that they actually changed the name to the Mutual UFO Network. It is today the largest UFO research and reporting organization in the world. We have over 5,000 members, almost 300 field investigators around the world, and out of that 300, I would imagine 200 are still very active. So Mufon's been around for a long time. There's some other very good UFO research organizations in the world, especially here in the States, but Mufon by far has set the standard, and probably will continue to set the standard in the future. San Antonio is one of the oldest continually working chapters in the Mufon network. One of the original founders of Mufon actually lived here in San Antonio, actually in Seguin, Texas, and he brought Mufon headquarters to Seguin, where it stayed for years until he retired. So Mufon has been in San Antonio for a long time. It wasn't really big until recently, when the UFO phenomenon, the whole topic, kind of exploded about 10 years ago. And in San Antonio, Mufon actually started growing to the point now that we have, before COVID hit, we were approaching 200 attendees at our monthly open meetings. So Mufon has grown tremendously over the last 4 or 5 years. But what has it done for San Antonio? Well, I think Mufon has always been known in San Antonio, but not as well as it should be until we had some news coverage and the word got out that we were here, and that's why we exploded so much. But we have brought to San Antonio the understanding of what the whole UFO phenomenon is about, which was difficult for San Antonio, since we have an awful lot of Hispanic influence here. Even those of us who are Caucasian are mostly Hispanic in a way that we think and feel. So it was hard for people to come forward and show the interest in the topic. That has changed a lot over the last few years, and has become much more acceptable. But we've had meetings and brought the general public in, introduced them to the phenomenon. But what is most intriguing and I find fascinating is the number of people in the San Antonio area that feel they have been visited or actually abducted by an alien race. A lot more than you would ever think. And up until recently, these people had nowhere to go to tell their story, or no one to talk to find out if what they experienced was real or if they were crazy. And some of them would actually go crazy because nobody believed them. But Mufon is here to, with an open ear, without judgment, have somebody to talk to, and maybe we can give them some help. Well, that's a hard question because there are so many. Over the pushing 9 years now I've been doing this. I've had a lot of really good cases, and but there are several that stand out, and the one that always stands out most for all of us as investigators is that first case you get that after all you do, all your due diligence and all your research and all your investigative work and your photo analysis and your interviews and everything, you determine that it was in fact a real UFO, not a light in the sky or a photo anomaly, but a real UFO. And my first one was actually 2017. It was that long before I had one that I could actually say that is a real, no kidding UFO. And it was down south of here, it's around Pleasanton. It was seen by a construction worker, a plumber, was filling up his gas at the gas station, and he saw this strange object across the highway in another field skirting the tree line. So he took out his iPhone and started photographing it and videoing it. He did an excellent job of capturing it, so we had crystal clear video and ultimately photo evidence of this thing. And I could not figure out what it was. Nobody could figure out what it was, so we classified it as a real UFO. And it looked donut shaped. So we call it a donut UFO. It turns out it wasn't really a donut. It had something on the back of it that was probably part of its propulsion system that made it look like it had a void there. So it looked like a donut. But we had more cases after that came in over the next couple of years with better photography, and we could see more of how it was built. That turned in to be a flap, and we have seen those things all over Central Texas. They've been seen in New Jersey, New York, UK, Ireland, Australia, and New Zealand. And we think it's a type of a scout craft. And last year we had a lady out in the ranch lands between Houston, San Antonio area, out in the middle of nowhere, actually photographed a mothership that was actually expelling these things out of the craft. And it looked like what everybody else had been reporting. So we got that. That's really exciting. And about 6 months ago, we had a gentleman in Austin that saw one at extremely close range. Wasn't able to get a photograph of it, but we were able to send him some of the videos and stuff that we had, and he confirmed that's exactly what he saw. In fact, he gave us a very good drawing of what he got. So we had that. So that's been exciting. But I think it's going to top it all off is what we have going on right now. And I'm calling this the cases of tic-tacs over Texas. We seem to be having a flap of tic-tacs like what the Navy's reported on both the East and West Coast through ATIP. Because of ATIP, they came forward. We're seeing what appears to be at this time, we're still and the investigations are still going on. It looks like we got tic-tacs over Texas. We've had spottings with video evidence, Dallas, Fort Worth, San Angelo, San Antonio, and 2 other cities up around the Dallas area. And if our investigation proves out, it probably is going to go viral. We had 6 cases. We are still working on 5 of them. One we determined through photo analysis it was in fact a cloak at high altitude. But if these Tic Tacs work out, this is going to be probably one of the more exciting cases that we've had in a very long time. Okay, well, like everybody in ufology, we went nuts because finally we had government disclosure. We had something released by DOD. And at that time, we didn't realize that the Navy Department had been seeing these things on a regular basis back to 2004. So, but by 2008, 2017, they were encountering these things almost on a daily basis on both the East and West Coast. So it was a very exciting time. And I think, I don't know who's more excited, us or Richard Dolan, because Richard thought something was going to happen. But when nothing happened, it really didn't surprise Richard Dolan. But we thought we were going to have some kind of disclosure. It didn't get the notoriety that we wanted to the general public through the mainstream media, but it was the first official government release of something unknown. Even though they didn't say it was extraterrestrial, they did say that it did not appear to be of Earth origin. That's close enough. So we'll get to see what happens next time. And of course, we got the Texas Tic Tac thing going on right now. And if I can tie those in with what the Navy saw both on East and West fleets, it might be even more exciting. So we're hoping that the Texas Tic Tacs are going to make it through the scrutiny. And after I get done with them, we're going to send them to Mufon special teams, and they're going to tear them apart. And if it survives that, we'll have a pretty exciting case that we can add to what ATIP has done. And I think ATIP did a good job, given their scope of work and their budget. I think it was probably the best thing that's happened to ufology so far. So I wish Lewis would have stayed with it longer and developed more out of it, but I can understand why he left and went off on his own doing what he's doing. So. Well, that's a tough nut. The hardest people to convince that UFOs and extraterrestrial life outside Earth exist are the devout religious, especially Christians, and I happen to be one, and the academic community, because they're scientists. And the problem with ufology and the study of UFOs and the research of them is we have no control group that we can put our hands on that is publicly available. It turns out that it's there, you just got to know where to go to get it. So right now, mostly what we have to go with in our research is historical data, eyewitness reports, and these are all from credible people. And even though we don't have a control group to use a pure scientific method on, it's pretty darn close. But as far as what's going to go on in the future, there has been disclosure. It just hasn't been accepted. But at some point in time, it will be, and I hope sooner than later. But unfortunately, I don't think it's going to happen where Watu is going to land in front of the White House and get out of the saucer, and a big giant alien is going to come out, and he's going to say, "We're here to help you keep from blowing your own world up." So that's not going to happen. It's going to get dribbled out a little bit at a time, But at some point in time, academics are going to realize that what people like Mufon and Norfolk and the other research agencies over time have discovered is actually real. And I think at some point our extraterrestrial brothers will become comfortable enough with us to go ahead and do some public disclosure. Right now they're scared to death of us because we're so violent. You know, they can't trust us. So I don't blame them.
From San Antonio's secret school to its public and secret history of scientific research on extraterrestrial life is truly a crown jewel that has become a forgotten history to the city. From its military history to its paranormal history, San Antonio is a city full of hidden history that should not only be promoted to the public, but should also be researched by the academic community as well. Hopefully, this season has created new interest in researching San Antonio's hidden histories. As for me, Street Art Historian, I've decided that I'll be taking a break for a while from my research. Maybe next year, I will begin a new season on other hidden histories of San Antonio that have not been covered in this season. I believe I will end this video with what Mr. Ken informed me about how Mufon will continue after the ETs reveal themselves to the public.
Eventually, they will come out and let themselves be known publicly. They are here now. They're walking among us. They work among us because most of them are human, look just like us for the most part. And when they think that we have matured enough as a planet, they'll come forward and reveal themselves, and we will have that motion picture first contact event. So, but that's going to happen. A lot of people are asking, well, what's going to happen to Mufon and Norfolk and some of the other organizations once that takes place and aliens come out and we start interacting with extraterrestrials on a regular basis? Well, Mufon will continue, even though we may not be out looking for evidence of ET, that we can prove their existence, and more importantly, get their technology into our research and development so we can get that technology to work on behalf of mankind on Earth. I think Mufon will probably evolve into a monitoring organization to watch what big government does with the information they get, with the technology that they get, and try to be sure it gets out to the general public and doesn't get hidden in some secret government program, or the very elite get to have that technology and the rest of the people on the planet continue to suffer the way they are. Mufon will be around even after its closure.